Good day everyone, we are the group 5 and today we are going to tackle about pregnancy, growth, development, and genetics. The human body undergoes an incredible journey from a single fertilized cell to a fully developed individual. This topic explores the essential stages of human life beginning with pregnancy, where fertilization marks the start of embryonic and fetal development within the mother's womb. It then follows the continuous process of growth and development, from infancy to adulthood, highlighting the physical and physiological changes that occur at each life stage. Additionally, this unit introduces the foundational principles of genetics, explaining how traits are inherited from parents through DNA and how genetic information guides development, influences health, and determines unique human characteristics. Together, these areas provide a deeper understanding of how human life begins, grows, matures, and evolves at both cellular and systemic levels. And today, we will learn how fertilization takes place and leads to the beginning of pregnancy. Second, explore the key stages of cleavage, embryonic development, and fetal growth. Third is understand the hormonal changes that support and maintain pregnancy. Fourth, discover the differences between the embryo and fetus stages. Last is practice using Punnett squares to predict traits passed from parents to offspring. First topic is fertilization. So, fertilization is the process where a sperm cell from a male fuses with an egg cell from a female, resulting in a fertilized egg, also known as a zygote. The fusion, which usually occurs in the fallopian tube, initiates the development of a new individual. Fertilization happens, or conception happens, when sperm swims up through the vagina and fertilizes an egg in the fallopian tube. It happens in the hours or days after you have unprotected sex after conception. The fertilized egg implants into the uterus and a pregnancy begins. So how does fertilization occur? Fertilization or conception is when sperm and an egg join together. It's one of the many steps that happen to create a pregnancy. Fertilization is closely related to a person's menstrual cycle. A menstrual cycle describes the sequence of events that occur within your body as it prepares for the possibility of pregnancy each month. Females ovulate during their menstrual cycle. Ovulation is when your ovary releases an egg for fertilization. Tiny finger-like structures called fimbriae help guide the egg through your fallopian tubes towards the uterus. During this journey, through your fallopian tubes, an egg can be fertilized by sperm. So, males produce sperms in their testicles during ejaculation. Millions of sperm cells are set free with the sole purpose of finding an egg to fertilize. When you have unprotected sex, sperm cells swim up through your vagina and into your fallopian tubes. Millions of sperm battle to reach and penetrate the egg, but only one breaks through egg's outer layer to fertilize it. So if a sperm doesn't fertilize an egg, the egg dissolves. If a sperm is successful on its quest to fertilize an egg, the fertilized egg now, or called zygote, continues to move down to your fallopian tube, dividing into 2 cells, then 4 cells, then more cells. So, about a week after the sperm has fertilized the egg, the zygote has traveled to your uterus and it's now growing cluster of about 100 cells called blastocyst. So, the blastocyst then attaches itself to the lining of your uterus or the endometrium. This attachment process is called implantation. However, just because the fertilization occurs doesn't mean implantation will. So, sometimes implantation doesn't happen and you pass the fertilized egg in your next menstrual period. So, if implantation happen, the cells continue to divide. Some cells develop into your baby and others from the placenta. So, you begin to release hormones that tell your body a baby is growing inside your uterus. These hormones also signal the uterus to maintain its lining rather than shed it. So, this means you won't get your menstrual period, which may be the first way to know you are pregnant. Next topic is zygote. A zygote, or also called a fertilized egg, is the phase of conception or fertilization where the egg and sperm join to form a single cell. The zygote contains a full set of chromosomes with 23 from the egg and 23 from the sperm. The zygote phase lasts only about 4 days, after which the single cell splits rapidly to become a blastocyst and then an embryo. So, a zygote is the very first cell formed when a sperm joins with an egg. This happens inside the fallopian tube of a woman's body. Even though the zygote stage doesn't last long, it is very important because it contains all the genetic information or DNA needed to create a baby. Before the sperm can reach and enter the egg, it must go through several changes. First is the conditions in the vagina help activate the sperm by giving it energy. Second is, as the sperm moves toward the egg, it releases special chemicals called enzymes that help it break through the outer layers of the egg. And once the sperm enters the egg, it must go through the egg's outer layer and reach its inside. When this happens, the egg sends a signal to block other sperm from entering. This is important because only one sperm should join with the egg, so the correct number of chromosomes or DNA is passed on. If more than one sperm enters, it can cause problems in development. Also, certain hormones in women's body must be at the right levels for fertilization to happen. First is a hormone called luteinizing hormone, or LH, causes the egg to be released from the ovary. Another hormone is progesterone, prepares the uterus by making its lining thicker so the fertilized egg can stick and grow.
As shown in the diagram, the journey begins at day 0, when the sperm successfully fertilizes the egg in the fallopian tube. This fertilized egg is now called a zygote. From this point, the zygote begins to travel through the fallopian tube towards the uterus. On day 1, the first cleavage happens. This means the zygote divides for the first time into 2 cells. These 2 cells are called blastomeres. The division continues the next day, and by day 2, we see the 4-cell stage. These cells continue dividing without increasing in size, meaning the overall size of the zygote stays the same, but the number of cells increases. By days 3 to 4, the embryo reaches the 8-cell stage and then become what we call a morula, a solid ball of about 16 to 32 cells. Around day 4, fluid begins to collect inside the morula, and it turns into blastocyst. This blastocyst is now a hollow structure and is preparing to enter the uterus. On days 5 to 6, the blastocyst arrives in the uterus and starts to float around. It continues developing and finding the right spot to attach to the uterine wall. Finally, by days 7 to 9, the blastocyst attaches itself to the uterine lining. This step is called implantation. It is one of the most important stages because this is where the embryo starts forming a connection with the mother's body. From this point on, the embryo begins developing into a fetus. After fertilization, when the sperm and egg unite, they form a single cell called a zygote. This zygote doesn't stay as one big cell. Instead, it quickly starts dividing into smaller and smaller cells. This process is called cleavage. It's the very first stage of development, where the single-celled zygote becomes a cluster of cells, eventually forming a blastocyst. These early cell divisions are important because they set the stage for the embryo to grow and develop properly. Now, I'll explain the process called cleavage of the zygote, which is one of the earliest stages after fertilization. The first cleavage happens around 24 to 30 hours after fertilization. During this stage, the zygote, which is originally a single cell, divides into 2 cells. These 2 cells are called blastomeres, and sometimes one might be a little bigger than the other. This is the start of the embryo's development as it begins moving through the fallopian tube. Second, cleavage. By about 40 hours after fertilization, each of two blastomeres divides again. Now, the embryo has 4 cells. These cells are still enclosed within the same protective shell. This process continues rapidly, and the embryo keeps traveling through the fallopian tube on its way to the uterus. Third, cleavage. At about 3 days after fertilization, or 72 hours, the third cleavage occurs. The embryo continues dividing and increasing the number of cells, from 4 to 8 and more. It's important to note that all of this is still happening while the embryo is moving down the fallopian tube toward the uterus. Fourth day. By the 4th day, the embryo reaches the uterus. By this time, it has around 32 cells and is now called a morula. The morula looks like a mulberry and is a solid ball of cells. It's preparing for the next stage, which is the formation of the blastocyst, which will eventually implant in the uterus. Cleavage is a vital step in the early development of a human embryo. It transforms a single fertilized egg into a cluster of cells that will soon form all the tissues and organs of a baby. In this report, we will talk about the difference between an embryo and a fetus. These are two important stages in the early development of a baby inside the mother's womb. Many people think they are the same, but they have different meanings and happen at different times. Understanding the difference can help us learn more about how human life grows and changes before birth. Embryo. An embryo is what we call the developing baby in the early weeks of pregnancy. It starts right after fertilization, when the egg and sperm form a zygote. This zygote divides and becomes a blastocyst, which travels through the fallopian tube and implants in the uterus. From week 5 up to the end of the week 10 of pregnancy, the baby is called an embryo. During this time, important organs and body parts like the brain, heart, and limbs starts to form. This stage is crucial because it lays the foundation for the baby's full development. Fetus. A fetus is a term used for the developing baby from the end of the 10th week of pregnancy until birth. By this time, most of the major organs and body structures have already started to form. During the fetal stage, the baby continues to grow in size and weight, and the organs mature and become functional. Movements like kicking or stretching may begin, and the baby becomes more active. This stage focuses on refining the body systems in preparation for life outside the womb. For this part of our discussion, I'll walk you through the different stages of human prenatal development, from the moment of fertilization all the way to birth. Let's break it down into 3 major stages: germinal, embryonic, and fetal. The first stage is called the germinal stage. This begins with fertilization, where the sperm and egg meet in the fallopian tube to form a zygote. This tiny cell begins its journey to the uterus while dividing continuously. It becomes a ball of cells called a morula, then a blastocyst. Once it reaches the uterus, the blastocyst attaches to the uterine wall in a process called implantation, marking the end of the germinal stage. Next, we have the embryonic stage. This is where things get exciting because organogenesis happens. This means the organs start forming. The neural tube, which later becomes the brain and spinal cord, begins to develop. Basic body structures like the head, eyes, mouth, arms, and legs starts to form. During this time, the embryo also shows the first signs of a heartbeat. It's a very critical stage because this is when most of the body's foundation is built. After 8 weeks, the embryo is now called a fetus, and this starts the fetal stage. During this phase, growth and development accelerate. Organs like lungs, brain, and digestive system continue to mature. The fetus starts to move more, and these movements may eventually be felt by the mother. As due date approaches, all body systems are fine-tuned and prepared for birth. 10th week. This is when we officially call the 10th week. This is when we officially call the developing baby a fetus instead of an embryo. 12th week. The fetus now fills the uterine cavity and umbilical cord, which connects the fetus to the placenta, is fully formed and functional. 16th week. The fetus fingers and toes are fully formed. Developed by this point, and fingerprints starts to appear. At 20 weeks, the fetus measures around 4.5 inches. It looks much more like a tiny human and can move actively inside the womb. 28th week. By now, the brain nearly doubles in size, and the fetus starts to develop more advanced brain functions and awareness. So in summary, human development in the womb is a carefully organized and complex process that begins at fertilization and continues through each stage. With incredible milestones achieved each week, understanding this helps us appreciate how life begins and grows before birth. This is the developmental stages of a human baby, from embryo to fetus, and what important changes happen during each phase. 9 weeks. Fetal stage begins. 12 weeks. Sex organs differentiate. 16 weeks. Fingers and toes develop. 20 weeks. Hearing begins. 24 weeks. Lungs begin to develop. 28 weeks. Brain grows rapidly. 32 weeks. Bones fully develop. 36 weeks. Muscles fully develop. 40 weeks. Full-term development. The transformation from embryo to fetus involves many critical changes that happen week by week. Each stage is vital for the baby's survival and healthy development.
So next, we have the hormonal changes. What are hormonal changes? So think of hormones like little messengers in your body. They go around telling different parts of your body what to do. During pregnancy, a woman's body makes special hormones to help the baby grow. So the first hormone we have is the human chorionic gonadotrophin. So ang human chorionic gonadotrophin or HCG is a hormone that placenta makes during pregnancy. This is like a signal your body sends out saying that you are pregnant. It also tells the body to stop periods and start getting ready to grow a baby. It's also the hormone that pregnancy tests look for. For example, a blood test or urine test measures your HCG level. So if your HCG level is high, it could also mean that you are pregnant. The next hormone we have is the estrogen. So estrogen is a group of sex hormones primarily associated with females. So estrogen helps the baby grow, makes more blood vessels to feed the baby, and also helps the mommy's body to get ready to give birth, and even helps grow the breast for feeding the baby. So the next hormone we have is the progesterone. And progesterone is a steroid hormone primarily associated with the female reproductive system. So it makes inside of the uterus or where the baby grows soft and comfy. It keeps the muscles relaxed so that the baby can grow big. It also helps uterus to stretch from small to big like a balloon. Hormonal changes during pregnancy. So, when a woman gets pregnant, her body goes through special changes, especially with hormones or the body messengers. The two important hormones, the estrogen and the progesterone, it increase a lot and it's very fast. These changes don't just make her feel different emotionally, like being moody or happy, sad. They also do important things like making her skin and hair look healthier, or also the cold pregnancy glow. It helps the baby grow strong and healthy inside the womb. It changes how her body reacts to moving or exercising, like dali na lang mapagod or maging less flexible na lang si mommy. Next, we have the estrogen and progesterone are the two most important hormones during pregnancy. So when a woman is pregnant, her body makes more estrogen than her entire life. So ang estrogen helps siya to grow more blood vessels to carry oxygen and food to the baby, to move nutrients like vitamins, minerals from mom to baby. It also keeps the baby growing strong and healthy. In short, ang estrogen helps build the baby's home and it keeps it working well. So, estrogen doesn't just help the mom, it also helps the baby grows and develop. So, during pregnancy, ang estrogen keeps going up little by little and gets highest in the last few months or the third trimester. In the first weeks or the first trimester, the fast rise in estrogen might make the mom feel nauseous. This is part of morning sickness. In the middle part of pregnancy or the second trimester, estrogen helps the breast grow bigger by building milk ducts or tiny tubes that will carry milk for the baby later on. So, ang estrogen helps both the baby's growth and prepares the mom's body to feed the baby. So, during pregnancy, ang hormone nga progesterone goes way up. This hormone does a lot of helpful things like it makes the joints and ligaments or the parts that connect bones looser so the baby can stretch more as the baby grows. It makes some inside parts of the body like the ureters, the tubes that carry pee from the kidneys to the bladder to get bigger. It helps the uterus where the baby grows go from being small like a pear to big enough to hold a full-grown baby. So, ang progesterone helps the mom's body stretch and make space for the baby. So, ang HCG is a special hormone that shows up right after a woman gets pregnant. So, in the first 8 to 10 weeks, HCG levels go up very fast. They almost double every 3 days. So, doctors check HCG level to make sure the pregnancy is going well. If someone has high HCG but isn't pregnant, it could also mean that something is wrong like a type of cancer. That's why ang mga doctors also use ang HCG test to help find, track, or check for cancer in rare cases. So, ang HCG helps confirm the pregnancy, but it can also give the doctors clues about health problems. So, in functions, ang HCG is the first hormone your body makes after a woman gets pregnant. It tells the body that you are pregnant and also stops the period and tells the body to start making more progesterone and estrogen. Ang progesterone naman, ga-help making inside the uterus soft and thick so the baby can grow safely. It keeps the uterus calm and relaxed so it doesn't squeeze too early. And ang estrogen naman, helping the baby's organ like heart and lungs to grow, making more blood flow to feed the baby, getting the mom's body ready for birth. So, ang tatlo ka hormones nga ni are like a team that helps both mom and baby during pregnancy. And next, we have the genetics. So, genetics is the study of how you get traits from your parents. Traits are things like your eye color, whether your hair is curly or straight, even the parts of your personality. These traits come from genes, which are the tiny pieces of information inside your body. Genes are made of something called DNA, like a special code or recipe that tells your body how to grow and look. So, genetics helps us understand why you look like your mom, dad, or even your grandparents. So, here are our key concepts. So, ang genes are like tiny instruction books inside your body. They tell your body how to grow, what color your eyes are, or how tall you might be, and more. They are made of DNA and help create proteins or the building blocks of your body. Next, we have the DNA or the deoxyribonucleic acid. DNA is the code or recipe that your genes use to give instructions. It's made of 4 letters, A, T, C, and G. These letters go in special orders to spell out your traits. Next, we have your chromosomes. Ang chromosomes are like bookshelves. Amo na siyang gahold sang imong genes and DNA. So, you have 23 pairs. So, total 46. You get half from your mom. Ang tunga naman, halin sa imo nga father. Next is we have the alleles. Ang alleles are different versions of the same gene. For example, one gene might decide eye color, or one allele might say brown eyes, other might say blue eyes. So which one you get will decide what your eyes you look like. Next is heredity. Ang heredity is just a fancy word for how traits get passed down from parents to children. If your mom has curly hair and your dad has straight hair, heredity decides which you might get. And lastly, we have the inheritance. So, ang inheritance is how you receive your genes. It is just the process of getting those traits from your parents and even grandparents. So next, we have the Punnett square. So, ang Punnett square is isa ka tool or gamit sa genetics nga ginagamit para ma-predict kung ano ang mga traits or mga batasan nga pwede makuha sa isa ka bata halin sa iya mga ginikanan. So, ang purpose ni, ginagamit ang Punnett square para makita siya visually ang mga kombinasyon sang genes or ginatawag nga alleles halin sa nanay kag sa tatay. Ini nagabulig para mag-estimate kung ano kadako ang posibilidad nga ang bata makakuha sa isa ka trait. So, ang Punnett square isa ka grid or kahon-kahon. Ang mga sperm or itlog halin sa ginikanan ginabutang sa ibabaw kag kilid sang grid. Ginapuno ang mga kahon sa tunga sa mga possible combinations sang genes sang bata. Dominant kag recessive traits. So, ang dominant trait amo ini ang mas kusog nga gene. Kung ara siya bisan isa lang ka beses makita na ang iya epekto. While ang recessive trait naman amo ini ang mahuyang or ang weak nga gene. Kinahanglan duha ka copies para makita ang iya epekto. Halimbawa, kung si nanay may B or brown eyes kag si B blue eyes, si tatay may B kag B man, ginagamit ang Punnett square para makita kung 75% ang posibilidad nga ang bata may brown eyes or 25% nga may blue eyes. Kombinasyon or genotype. For example, kung 3 sa 4 ka kahon brown eyes, equal 75% chance nga brown eyes ang bata. Kung 1 sa 4 lang ang blue eyes, 25 chance nga blue eyes siya. So, we have next the blood type example or codominance. May 3 ka klase ka allele, ang A, B, kag O. Ang A kag O dominant, ang O recessive. Kung ang bata makakuha sang A kag B, may AB blood type siya. Both traits nagwa. Halimbawa, ang nanay is AO or type A, while ang tatay naman is BO or type B. Ang mga possible nga blood type sa bata amo ang AB type AB, AO type A, BO or type B, and OO for type O. So, mga chances is 25% for type A, 25% for type B, 25% for type AB, and 25% for type O. So, sa kabugusan, ang Punnett square nagabulig sa pampanagna o kung ano ang posibilidad nga traits ang ginikanan nga mapasa nila sa ilang nga bata. Ang dominant traits mas madali makita samtang ang recessive traits naman kinahanglan pareho halin sa nanay kag tatay para magpakita. So, in conclusion, our report explains how life begins, develops, and is shaped by both biological process and inherited traits. From the moment of fertilization, the body undergoes complex stages, zygote, embryo, and fetus, leading to the birth of a fully formed individual. Hormones like HCG, estrogen, and progesterone play vital roles in maintaining pregnancy and supporting fetal development. Finally, genetics determines how traits are passed from parents to offspring, with tools like Punnett squares helping us understand dominant and recessive inheritance. So altogether, these topics give us a deeper understanding of human development and heredity.